Now, you've told me
Mm-hmm.
that both you and your friends who listen to this show
Mm-hmm.
says that Jack sounds just so white.
Yes. I've
Which,
actually been asked multiple times to ask, how white are you? And the best way I can explain is he is a white boy from Long Island.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I had a joke about it in college when I did stand up for a bit about being the white kid when being the Jewish kid when all your friends are black.
That's
And that
hilarious.
you're doing like the Hava, Lakiva Hava dance while they're spitting bars. I keep it a buck. That's why I got the love.
Gotta appreciate it.
I was my friend's hype man too.
Oh my lord.
He was he's a rapper. I don't know if he's still rapping, but he actually had some few good songs. But I in that note, I want to tell the whitest like romance story
Interesting.
that I've ever had.
Now, just to be clear, you've had some white ass romance stories. I just want you to know, like,
But this
you've had
isn't
you've had some romance stories. If somebody never watched our YouTube, they can probably tell you're a white man with blonde hair. You're a white man with blonde hair. So, continue.
This isn't like a white romance story, though. This is like I did a very white thing to impress a girl.
You've piqued my interest. I'm in.
Okay.
Let's go.
This was a few years ago. I made a friend, and it was like one of those friends who, like, we were best friends from the moment we met. Like, It was like we had known each other for years and would like talk for hours and be comfortable with each other in silences. And we would go everywhere together, movies, grocery shopping, to like the 7-Eleven, whatever. Super good dude. But he was a real like Colorado farm boy. Like a real like grew up working on a ranch, grew up riding horses, had a father named Oak. He used to like ride in the rodeo. He used to ride bulls.
Ooh.
And we were hanging out one night, and there was like a fridge his mom wanted us to get rid of. And
a fridge ain't light, Jack.
No, but it was like an older fridge. Between the two of us, we could like pick it up and carry it.
All right. Farm boy carry like he's Braun Strowman at this fucking point.
And we were hanging out with a few girls. And he's like, oh, I know like where we can dump it. And now I'm not proud of this. And it's not my usual not proud of this. I'm not proud of this from an environmental standpoint. Like,
okay.
I haven't always batted 1,000 in my life. There's a few things I'm ashamed of. Like, this is one of them. He's like, I know a ravine like we can throw the fridge into. Not like a deep ravine, but like we can throw it down there and we can shoot at it. Like he had a bunch of rifles, and like the girls were like, oh, that sounds like fun, like let's go, blah blah blah. And so
this is the whitest shit I've heard.
I told you.
Like already I heard throwing a fridge in a ravine and shooting it with a rifle. That is already
he had an M1 Grand, which is like a collector's item. He had a couple 9mm, and then like a double barrel. And it's fun to shoot a fridge because like stuff falls off of it and it's like very dense. So as soon as the girls were like, oh, like that sounds fun, Like just something different, you know, on a
Right.
Friday night, a Saturday night, or whatever. Fuck, we can bring some drinks out there. It'll be a hoot.
Hmm.
So we drive way back, and we're deep in the BLM land, which stands for Bureau of Land Management in this case, which is like extra white.
That's a deep cut that no one's gonna understand listening to this podcast.
But that's like it's a real thing. Like BLM is Bureau of Land Management. For those of you, for people who don't know, like it doesn't just mean Black Lives Matter. It also before that was the Bureau of Land Management, which manages like all of the wilderness that's in America and all of the like public land that you're allowed to camp on for free.
This is at the 6-minute mark. I need to remember this, and this should be the first clip that goes on TikTok, and we can see which side of TikTok did we get on before the ban. See which side of TikTok, because it's wrestling TikTok, black TikTok, and then Pure Land Management
and camping TikTok. And the Bureau of Land for BLM land, you can just pull up to it and like there's a couple's like I know Arizona it's 30 days, other states it's 14 days. You can just stay there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You can just pull up, park your car, and just stay for as long as you need to. Well, according to each state, but nobody's really out there checking.
Yeah.
Except for one group, which we'll get to in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
We drive out there. We go to BLM land. We see a bunch of, it was the fall, so it was elk season. Yeah. And there were some hunters out there. And we drive past them. And we take the big fridge.
Mm-hmm.
Throw the big fridge into the ravine, which is littering, and you shouldn't do that.
Yes. Bad Jack.
Bad Jack. It was a bad thing I did.
Yes.
And as we sit there and like we're starting to crack some beers and like guns aren't out of the truck yet, a light goes on behind us to a quickly approaching truck. And it's a yellow light. So I feel like it's like, I'm like, all right, you know, things are fine. And I even said that, like, oh, it's just a yellow light. It's fine. And he goes, no, that's way worse. I'm like, why is that worse? It was the light of a Fish and Wildlife Service, which is like in this area, if the FBI pulled up, the Fish and Wildlife Service would have jurisdiction over them. Like these are like the king of the not fucking around crew.
Oh.
Like you
this is fuck around and find out at scale number 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like these guys are no nonsense. They're here to protect the wildlife and they don't like people and I've never met a Fish and Wildlife person who wasn't an asshole. Like an asshole in some, like they can still be a good person,
right?
But who wasn't a gruff, tough, hard-nosed motherfucker.
And you just threw a fridge.
Yes, and he knows we threw the fridge too. Like you could hear that shit clanking all the way down. He had been.
That's the way I can explain this. It's Tony Montana throwing the bag of coke in front of the CIA and FBI brunch.
Yeah.
Just pretty much. Yeah.
And just daring them to do something. These are the things you do when you're... So my buddy was even younger than me. I was like 23. He was like 20.
Ew.
Right. So we think we're invincible.
Yeah.
We're not only think we're invincible, we're myopic. Like all we want to do is prove our indestructibility and are everywhere we go in every aspect of our life.
Mm-hmm.
He pulls up, goes to me and my buddy and the three girls who are this, go stand by the front of the truck. Takes his headlamp, shines it into the back of the truck, looks back at us, shines it back into the truck, and goes, "Where'd you throw it?" And my buddy goes, "Throw what?" And like before he's finished with the sentence, goes, "You threw the fucking fridge. Where is it?" And he points, and like I look down to the ravine, and he like follows my line of vision, and like his headlamp hits it, and he goes, "Okay, you two, like come back and stand here with me." And at this point, we're like, "Oh, we're going to jail."
Yeah.
Yeah, we littered on federal ground, like, and not like a candy wrapper, a fridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he's looking at my friend. We cough up our IDs. He's looking at my friend. And he's looking at my friend, and he goes, "You're Oak's boy, ain't you?" My friend goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Old man's not going to be too happy to hear about this, is he?" And that's point. I'm like, "Is this the fucking Dukes of Hazzard? Like, what is this shit?" And I didn't know my friend's dad's name because we had only met like a few weeks ago, like until that moment. So I'm hearing Oak being thrown around, and like, "Oak is your old man," and I'm trying not to giggle. Like, this is so ridiculous.
You're like, "What the fuck is this?" You're like, "What the fuck is this?"
Gives us back our IDs. He goes, "Go carry the fridge out." So we go down there. Mm-hmm. I'm in Vans.
Oh, so it's fucked. You're fucked.
It's muddy. We had an early snowfall that had melted quickly.
Low top or high top Vans?
Low top.
Oh,
I don't fuck with high top Vans.
I have big ass feet, so I have to.
Oh, I got it. We pick up the fridge, and now we got to carry it up this steep ravine wall.
Yeah.
Like dredging through the mud, dragging this thing up. It's probably like 20 to 30 yards up the ravine wall. And the girls are just sitting at the front of the truck, just like watching us. And we're so embarrassed.
Yeah.
Like, I just remember feeling this deep shame and then also feeling this is what I deserve. Like I did a wrong thing. And we had just been hooting and hollering about ourselves. Like, yeah, we threw that fucking fridge into that fucking ravine. We carried it out. We put it back into the back of the truck. And the wildlife dude just proceeds to read us the fucking riot act and like lists out every single law we had broken and that he would be hearing, like we would be hearing from him, and that we would have a court date, and we were at the very least looking at a ticket, a hefty fucking ticket.
Okay.
Lets us go. We drive out of there. It's silent in the truck for like the whole half hour back to the house.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a party going on at the house, and the girls like get turned loose to tell everybody our story. We don't feel like hanging out with anybody. I go to my room. He goes to his room. And the epilogue to both of these things are the girl I liked ended up hooking up with somebody else who didn't throw a fridge into a ravine that night to try to impress her. Let that be a lesson, kids. And the wildlife guy never popped us. And somebody reassured me that night, like, if he wanted to take you down, like, there's no, like, we'll set up a court date, whatever. He would have just taken you to jail. Like, if
So
he
let
had
me get
really
this
wanted
straight.
to, he would have just taken us to jail.
So I have so many questions. Because, not gonna lie to you, I'm never gonna get that benefit. When I'm caught on something.
Watch whiteness work.
That's why you gotta keep a white one in your pocket.
I assume that's why we were friends.
I'm gonna need you around Mania season. Anyway. But so do you think, right, it's because he knew who the boy's father was?
Yeah. Like, I don't think it wasn't just whiteness. It was also like friends in the same community, like in the same wildlife hunting community.
So let me get this straight. Not only did you get popped for something, you feel morally bad about it now after your horniness has worn the fuck off.
Yeah.
So it's like the adrenaline of just the boner is gone now. You realize how much of a piece of shit you might be for doing this.
Yeah.
And the possibility of obtaining some sweet loving for the evening has also vanished.
Yeah, like I had no desire after that. I just felt so vapid. Like it was truly a moment like I had never felt like emptier about myself, where I was like doing something so out of character and was so excited about it.
Yeah.
And was like bragging about it. Yeah. And it was all ego, no confidence. Like you do that sort of shit when you're trying to puff up your ego and you're not a confident person.
Yeah.
And so like after that, it was just like dragging myself like in the cartoons where it's like the sad boy going up the stairs like to my room.
Shoulders high, head down. So
yeah. I ended up going to my friend's room because he lived downstairs and had the bigger place, and we just drank Jack Daniel's Fire like all night of it. Which, you ever drink Jack Daniel's Fire?
Yeah.
That's a sad moment.
Listen, sir, there is some moments I can I've always been like, I try to avoid those having to walk with my tail between my leg moments. I try to avoid that. Because it's just like, ooh, I don't know what that can feel like. But saying that you drank Jack Daniel's Fire to purposely understand the pain of that, for anyone who's never drunk that is a level of pain you must go through. Like, where you're just like, the only thing that can soothe this is this drink.
It's, you know why we drank it? It's because it was the only thing there, like, but for a reason. Like, it had been passed over again and again.
Yeah. Like
in the house. And we just kept buying more liquor to replace it. But all the alcohol had been gone toward the party, except Jack Fire, which was left. Jack Fire is if you took Fireball and minus all like the fun connotations. So you just hate yourself.
Yeah. It's yeah.
And it's... And the drinking isn't over when you're drunk off of Jack Daniel's Fire.
Right.
And the drinking isn't over when like you run out of Jack Daniel's Fire, because like that's also when you're in that mode and you're drinking Jack Daniel's Fire, you're like, fuck it, let's go to 7-Eleven and get more. The drinking is over when you've like passed out into a pizza. The drinking is over when you've lost any ability to think. Like I always say, like, don't drink to forget, because all you're going to do is remember why you're drinking.
Legit, and I couldn't agree with that any less. And this is coming from someone that used to drink 151 as a starter.
Oh, no wonder you don't drink anymore.
Oh, if you want, listen. Not to sidetrack us, and maybe this could be for next episode. My white adventures going to a rural college as a black kid from Brooklyn, New York. I got introduced to Jack Daniel's Fire, Honey, Kamikazes, and 151 in one.
Well, Honey is delicious.
Honey's delicious.
Honey is a really fun drink.
I got introduced. Someone gave me Jack Daniel's Fire and then gave me a shot of honey and said, "This will make it all better." And then I realized I had consumed 2 shots of Jack Daniel's whiskey twice without a fucking break.
They were part of the KKK. They were trying to hurt you.
Oh, we'll save this for the next episode. My wife.
Did I say the second thing?
No, what was the second thing?
Throwing the fridge when I learned 2 things.
You learned how that will dry. Oh,
which is don't do that.
Yes, and then you said about the walking away and drinking the Jack Daniel's Fire. I think was the.
Oh yeah, there was 2 epilogues. Yeah.
Well, no. What was the second epilogue? Was that the second epilogue?
Yeah, the second epilogue was the girl that hooked up with somebody else in that.
Well,
yeah, I think we're chilling. I think all we can do now is give the intro.
And welcome to another episode of Wrestling with
Wromance.
Oh man, I'm one of your co-hosts, Life of David. I'm joined by the ever just not out of stories, man. Jack Simon.
I'm the white guy. I'm Jack Simon.
Jack, how you feeling this week?
I'm feeling fucking good. I was just in Neotropolis, where I was talking about it last week, that all immersive cyberpunk festival where it's like living in Blade Runner.
I was looking at a few of the photos you sent me, and I'm just like, yeah, that looked like a fun ass fucking time.
It was so much fun, dude. I mean, it's free alcohol, like once you're there.
Yeah.
But I mean, we mostly brought our own, and we just partied, and I did a lot of nerd shit. My dad did a lot of partying, and we met somewhere in the middle. Like we were going to sleep in the wee hours of the morning, like every night for 5 nights.
I will tell you, the mask that you have, it reminds me. It kind of reminds me, not to ever bring this person's name, but the villain, and if Star-Lord had like combined theirs without the big doctor type of like
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, from Guardians of the Galaxy. Like it gave me like a Star-Lord feeling, but it almost kind of looks kind of like Plague Doctorish, like the villain. But it's like
I follow what you're saying.
Yeah. So that's why I saw it and I was like, this is really dope. I love the creativity behind it. And I was like, that looks fun as fuck.
You're gonna have to make that the our podcast cover for this week.
What, the mask?
The picture of me. I think.
Oh yeah.
And this way we can go from my bar mitzvah picture to that.
The evolution. And in the middle, you have the story of this woman that you've enjoyed, that you chased after to, let me tell you how I embarrassed myself in front of some ladies and had to bury my heart underneath some Jack Daniel's Fire.
And I want to get my arms around it more and tell like some Neotropolis cuties next week, stories of that. Because there's just so many. Like there's and I didn't hook up with anybody. Like I'm there with my dad, which we would have figured something out if I met somebody. But,
I think your dad would have understood.
Yeah. He would have slept in my Jeep and I would have borrowed the RV. But I was just having like too good of a time to go like chasing girls. Like
that's sometimes when you're having the best fun. Fuck everything else.
And I was like so excited to be there with my dad. That was kind of all encompassing.
Yeah, that's awesome,
man. And he called it like an eye-opening experience. It's very much not my dad's thing. And he called it an eye-opening experience.
I would love, and I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon, but I would love if we could just have your dad talk about that moment just for himself. Like, he could, like, I don't know if we could give him like a voice memo thing, whatever, of just him talking about how eye-opening and to experience that. Because how old is your dad?
He's 62.
I can't imagine how that must feel going to you your first time at 62.
First festival he's ever been to, ever. Full stop festival of any sort he's ever been to. Music. No, he went to Stagecoach once.
Okay.
Which is a very different vibe. So I guess he's been to one music festival.
Yeah. I can't imagine how that must feel for him. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I'm interested to hear.
Yeah, go to Neotropolis, everybody. You'll see a lot of hotties. You'll see a lot of music. You can do a lot of the cool video game quests. buy some cool shit. They need to do a wrestling show is really what I thought of a lot. Like Bonkers Pro Wrestling is booking a show there next year.
There we go, Bonkers Pro Wrestling, baby. We just need, anybody, Freddie Prinze Jr. I know you out there, anybody wants to get behind it, help us. But
what's on your
mind? I was gonna ask you what's on your heart this week.
Me, little me.
Well,
I figure the draft.
Yeah.
Is
what's your thoughts on the draft, guy? Because you was out using a good space. I've been the continuous wrestling fan, just sitting here in my dungeon watching wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, I came home last night, and then I just started binging wrestling to start catching up for this podcast because I missed everything last week. Everything. AEW, WWE, Impact, if that's still a real thing. I don't know. Maybe it closed while I was gone.
No. And AAA got a little weirder while you were gone. Don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't. What happened?
Nick Nemeth is their AAA champion now. You want to know who he faced?
Alberto Del Rio, right?
Yep, yeah, damn right. It just keeps getting weirder and weirder.
So uncomfortable. The draft is always like a fun moment for me because I love seeing a good idea executed poorly. And there's just something so like reassuring about it.
Yeah.
And this was not the worst draft. And I would even say like in recent memory, it's one of the better ones, but like also in recent memory, they've been the drizzling shits. And also, moreover, like at least with this one, I know everybody's going to stick to their brand and there's going to be like no weird exceptions and there's going to be like no wild card rule that is introduced a week later and then forgotten about. At least I know it's going to stick to brand lines.
Yeah. Here's my thing with the draft, right? There are moments where I could appreciate a draft and I think it's very successful. One, I think the first one where you had like Vince and Ric Flair and I said two nasty man names. I feel like but when you have
wash your mouth out with soap.
I'm gonna have to maybe salt and vinegar after. But when you have like those two and they're really splitting up the SmackDown Raw brand, that makes sense. When you have like, when they've been stuck together for so long, and then you had you had Shane and Brian, and then Stephanie and Mick Foley, and they really trying to create like, hey, SmackDown is this wrestling brand. We're gonna have Dean Ambrose as our champion. AJ Styles is gonna be, stuff like that made sense. Here's my issue with the draft now, right? And I don't know how much Raw and SmackDown you've kept consistent with over the last year. Not even last year, last 3-4 months.
Inconsistent SmackDown more of.
Okay, so my issue is there's certain logic holes where I'm just like, all right, the draft here could have been changed. And I think there's a time now where we kind of got to alter the draft, right?
What do you mean the draft year?
This year, the draft could have been changed a little bit. Like this year's draft. I misspoke. I meant to say this year's draft could have been changed a little bit.
Because I really like the format for this year's draft.
I don't hate the format, but there's certain logic holes that don't make sense, right? Like, I feel like there should have been people who are not draft eligible. Like, you just spent 2 months on TV telling me.
Well, the champions.
Well, outside the champions. Where you just spent 3 months up until Mania telling me why Jade Cargill is this highly scouted free agent, right? And we need to sign her to SmackDown. For 3 weeks later, her to be in the fucking draft.
No, but that, to me, that makes all the sense.
No, I mean, okay, you sign her, and you only had her on your roster for 3 weeks for her to be re-put in a draft pool where you could have just waited.
But they drafted her first round.
In the second day.
No, okay. Are you talking about on the second show, like on Raw?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is before we knew about the draft, you just spent 2 months telling me why it was so important to sign her. You had a possibility of her not being drafted.
Well, that's not exactly accurate because there was a draft pool for SmackDown. and then
Right.
there's a separate draft pool on Raw. And if anything, it follows through on that logic because she was a first-round draft pick.
But here's my issue with it, because if I'm looking at it, where's the Monday night one? I got the draft picks right here. She was their first draft pick there, right? But even if we're just looking at the draft pool, right? Because let's say Raw had the first pick. Raw could have picked her. Like, you had the you just spent 2 months on your TV show telling me why she's so important, and you just had a chance to lose her. I feel like even with Andrade, you had a month or two telling me how much he's important to Raw. You could have lost him. Perfect example. You spent 2 months telling me why Braun Breaker is so important to the draft, and then you lose him in the draft.
But so storytelling, brother.
To me, here's the thing, though. I think my issue with this draft was it's not bad. I don't think it's particularly good. I think it was more boring. Like, it wasn't really anything really except the call-ups. The call-ups to me were the things where it's just like, okay, you got me. Because there isn't really that many switches.
I think that was like a cool little wrinkle where now they're treating NXT as a developmental again.
That's another thing I had an issue with. You kind of, because the way they did position it is that, and they had said it, like, people can get drafted to NXT. And I'm like, where the fuck did that happen? Because that didn't happen in the draft.
Can be drafted from NXT?
No, to NXT. They had stated it. That's why the logo even had gold in it, because people could have gotten drafted to NXT.
When did they say that?
They had Ava on the show for weeks, for like the last 2 weeks, talking about it in segments like, you never know who could get drafted to NXT and things like that too. And it's like,
well, so that got thrown out the window, evidently.
Right. So my thing is, I think they should still keep the draft, but I think you should do a like signing day, like kind of how you guys do NIL deals. So you can mimic how colleges, because the draft is to go with the NFL draft.
Yeah.
You could do signing day, like how kids who go to college and stuff like that, and you do NIL deals. So it kind of mimics what you already have. And it's like, okay, all these contracts are in a signing pool. Who's our hottest signing? And it just, to me, makes sense. Because there's also certain things when I look at the draft where I'm just like, okay, why is this person even being drafted? Like, I love Seth. Seth ain't coming back till fucking Rumble. Why is he in your top 2 picks for Raw?
I mean, because he's still a star.
He's still a star, but no one drafted Charlotte.
Like, it makes sense. That's a good point.
No one drafted Charlotte.
That's a damn good point.
She's closer to return than Seth.
It's a damn good point. I mean, storytelling, brother.
It's also very interesting. CM Punk's a higher draft pick than Ilya Dragunov, who just lost the NXT Championship, than Drew McIntyre. It's like,
well, that's also like, it was part of like the Bloodline shows up and they're berating Paul Heyman for the fact that they weren't drafted in the first round. And Drew McIntyre works it into his story that CM Punk was drafted over me, and even cites the injury over, like, why would you pick him, this like injured asshole, over me?
Yeah, and it's just certain things where I'm just like, don't get me wrong, I don't hate it. I like the call-ups. You gave me something I'm here for in one of the calls. Ilya's on the same fucking show with Drew, Gunther, Sheamus. I want abusive matches. I want matches that scream.
Dragunov is like the first like cruiserweight Haas. And listen, before you all start blogging, I know he's not actually a cruiserweight, but I mean like in the sense that he's just a skinny boy and is still a Haas. Like when you put him against Gunther, you're like, yes, Haas match.
Would you say him or Tyler Bate? Because Tyler Bate lifted him, did the airplane spin.
No, Tyler Bate is still like that. Tyler Bate is a big, strong boy, but he's not going to have the, like, I don't see him and think Haas match the way I do when I see Dragunov, like where it's going to be big, meaty men slapping meat.
Oh,
and Dragunov isn't even a big, meaty man.
I know what you mean. You mean we're gonna see the slaps. We're gonna see the hits. We're gonna see
the strong style.
Look, I was so happy to see Dragunov. when I don't mind turning this into a Dragunov thing right here for a second. There's something about that man's theme. It's something about his intensity that I love, that I feel like I don't get in wrestlers today. Because I feel like someone needs to just be like, hey, this isn't real, right? Like, And like, I'm a wrestling fan, but I need someone to just be like, he was one of the main reasons why I watched NXT. Because I was just like, I love he just feels so real. There's a moment, I don't know if you ever saw it. It was Dominic Mysterio versus Carmelo Hayes in NXT. Side note, I think Dom should be in NXT more. Just side note. But Dom, I think
Dominic Mysterio?
Just for like 2-3 months.
When he was on NXT, at this point in his career, I disagree wholeheartedly. I'm a big Dominic. I love booing Dominic Mysterio.
Here's the only reason why I would say
some of his better
matches are in NXT. Like when he's in NXT and he was in there, you feel like he had some of his better matches. That's just me. But in the middle of the match, he slapped Dragunov. It's like most people remember this moment. And then Dragunov just like, he's like, he just ran and just runs it. And I'm just like, I love this man. But I thought about the idea of he's on Raw. And I don't know if it's going to happen. But I remember when CM Punk said how Hangman hit him very stiff. And I thought about CM Punk having to take an H-bomb, like the jumping, diving forearm for Ilya. And I was like, he's going to break every bone in his body when that connects. I was just like, this man's been injured how many times? A dislocated jaw. And he's going to say, he's fucking stiffing me. He's fucking stiff. But give me Ilya.
And especially something like drafting Carmelo Hayes first round. That to me is like the perfect use of that very cool wrinkle of where we have to look to the future, and this is a guy we can all get, and this is a guy like that we both have a chance to start their career, and that's what makes them so valuable. So now you have an extra little facet of storytelling that hasn't really been explored before.
That's very true. Also, it's like there's somewhere I'm very interested in. I have one I'm very concerned about. Because they just separated him from Imperium, Giovanni Vinci.
I'm not.
Because they put him on.
Vinci can come or go. I'm not sweating it.
No, it's not that. I didn't want them to break up Imperium, period. I was like, you got new tag belts. There's no reason to break up Imperium because they haven't got a tag run. This is the perfect thing for your Raw tag division to keep them there. You know what I'm saying? Like, that could be perfect. Gunther could eventually get the belt. They have the world tag belts.
But Gunther and
Kaiser. Ludwig Kaiser.
Luther Kaiser.
Ludwig.
Ludwig. Who led a tank battalion in World War II or whatever. They could still win the tag belts together. I would be happy with that.
I don't want to see Gunther do nothing except taking that damn World Heavyweight Championship. If you give Gunther after 666 days is the IC belt, his next belt is not the World Heavyweight Championship.
Nah, I'm fine with him getting a tag team run.
Before the World Heavyweight Championship?
I think what they're going to do first is what I would like to see if I'm going to do some armchair booking here.
Let's go for it. We always do.
Tag team championship run and then singles match with Roman at Bash at Berlin. Gunther wins that as well. And then they lose the tag team belt, let's say. And then we have his world title quest story.
Looking no work for me, brother. No work. Because here's the thing. Roman ain't coming back for anything that's not that bloodline story. That's going to be the first thing Roman's going to deal with is the Solo Sikoa acting like the head of the table-ass thing. Roman ain't coming back till that. So him versus Roman, they are not touching for quite some time. So.
But that's kind of, I think you can get a Roman Gunther in a vacuum story
Ain't happening.
At Bash. Okay, so what are you telling me that like it ain't happening and I need to like let go of this dream? Or are you telling me like it ain't happening because it's like a bad idea?
Oh no, let it go of this dream.
Oh,
I'll never tell you
that hurts more.
Listen, if we not here to sugarcoat, sugarfoot, we not here to sugarcoat. We here to be honest. The first thing they're about to bring in Jacob Fatu for this whole story, this whole bloodline 3-on-3 building probably to a bloodline war games. Let's not play here. They're eventually building to rock Roman. He's not touching Gunther.
But this works. Like this works. Walk with me here for a moment. Take my hand and walk with me. We get Roman and Gunther in a vacuum, and you throw some bullshit storyline reason out there that has enough logic to it that you don't get pissy and you're willing to make that leap. They have their match. Roman loses and then goes back to try to be the tribal chief. And Solo's like, you've taken 2 losses. How can you still call yourself the tribal chief? And that's how you set that up. And then Roman wins that, and then you got The Rock coming in again.
Let me get this straight. You want me to believe Roman's going to go off of TV off a loss, come back to another loss.
But that's the story.
Bro, and let me explain this before we get here. Do I hate your idea? Absolutely not.
I know. I got that.
I'm here with you. Let's not act like we don't know the company that we're dealing with.
It's a new regime.
Listen, Jack, listen to me. I've been in enough things in my life where I just have to not let my rose-tinted glasses blind me from the true shit happening, okay? Listen, she might tell you she's like everything's good and it's brand new, but don't forget who she is on the inside. Don't forget who she really is.
Romance with a W. Well, think about the biggest match Roman can have, or at that Gunther can have at Bash at Berlin, because you don't want him losing, and he can't win the IC belt again, and you don't want him losing to Cody.
And winning the World Heavyweight Championship from Damian Priest.
Is Gunther on Raw?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
You forgot about that.
There. All right.
See, this is what I'm telling you.
All right. Fuck.
I wasn't trying to crush you on purpose. Jack, I love your free heart. I love your fact that you wear your heart on your sleeve and you just wanted to pump with love. But there's sometimes I gotta bring you back.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, okay. Yeah. The better, in my opinion, the better story and the better match is with Gunther beating Roman at Bash at Berlin. I even think it's a better moment that Gunther can have. I think beating Roman means more than that World Championship belt that Damian's holding, whatever they're calling it, Galaxy belt, World Heavyweight belt, Champion of the Savior of the Universe belt, whatever.
I don't disagree, but here's the thing, and this is just me, armchair booking again.
Okay.
I feel there are 2-3 matches that could probably happen for Mania, right? Because we don't know how Mania is going to look. This next Mania is probably not nearly as telegraphed as this last year's Mania was.
Yeah.
But if I had to look, there's a couple of possibilities here. I think we are getting Roman Rock next year, WrestleMania. I can see you either do maybe Cody Punk for the Universal title as one of the main events, because they did tease the Cody Punk tension going in the Rumble. You could always have that payoff, give Punk his main event, all that good stuff, right? I know. I can see the happiness in your face. I can see the happiness in your face. But I think you could give Gunther, I think him Seth, with like the Seth coming off the injury. Listen, relax.
Okay.
Give me a second here. Because we have to accept one thing. Gunther's not going to be in the main event next Mania.
Yeah, I'm with that.
But the thing is, whether we can say this for sure, Gunther made the IC belt.
Yeah.
He showed that ability.
Yeah.
Gunther can solidify this World Heavyweight Championship.
Yes.
You probably want to get it on Gunther as soon as you can.
I just don't think that's a good match. Like, I don't think they mesh well together.
Hear me out.
I've also underestimated Seth Rollins before and been pleasantly surprised.
You could also, just on this out here for Bash in Berlin, give the Money in the Bank to somebody who you really think can help make the World Heavyweight Championship. Don't know who you can have. Throw out anybody you want. It's either or brand. They can cash it in on Damian Priest, but they still have to face Gunther and Bash in Berlin. Now, if you want to make it Logan fucking Paul for some goddamn...
Yeah!
I knew that would make you happy.
White people! He's the whitest person in the history of white people.
Oh, let me... Real quick. This annoyed me yesterday. Of this weird-ass fucking booking. Did you watch the Raw, right?
Yeah, I watched Raw. I know exactly what you're going to say. Why would you have like Patrick Mahomes be a heel in Kansas City? It was really, really, really weird.
And not just that. Now people are cheering the heel going after your babyface who's your number one pick for Raw. What the?
Yeah, no, it was really weird. I have no defense for it. It was just fucking odd. Like I didn't understand the rhyme or reason to it at all.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I feel about the draft in general. I mean, I ain't really got nothing else to say
but
about
speaking of belts, those new tag belts, baby, those things are beautiful.
Listen, I've been waiting for them to get rid of them fucking dime belts for so fucking long, and them little two-headed Spartan, whatever the fuck they had the tag team belts be. Been waiting for it. It looks so much better. Kind of like the SmackDown versions, the Universal Tag Team belts a little bit. Actually, now that I think about it, I actually like the World one because it kind of reminds me of NXT UK belts. That's the one that R-Truth and Miz has. I like those a little bit more. But lovely designs. Love them. Which is good because WWE sucked at fucking designs for so long.
They've produced some bangers lately.
Because you know why? It's not an old man who wants to do some shit from entertainment. It's actually someone who might understand that, hey, a wrestling belt should still look like a fucking wrestling belt.
Like either the like I love the universal belt that Cody has. I think it's gorgeous. And I know not everybody agrees, but it seems like the tag team ones, both of them are like universally acknowledged as four of the best belts, however you want to look at it, 2, 4, whatever, in memory ever.
To be honest, the bar was hell. The bar for the tag belts was hell.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real here. They were up there with some of the worst designs WWE's had for tag belts. Maybe when they were copper, they were worse.
The copper ones were the worst. The copper ones were the worst belts I'd ever seen. No. The worst belt I've ever seen is the 24/7.
Yeah.
The second is the gold tag team belt, and the third is the original AEW women's belt.
Gold.
It was almost insultingly ugly. Like it looked like it didn't look like a championship belt. It looked like a belt I would put on my jeans. Like it was this big, bro. It was the size of a fucking rodeo buckle. Every time that shit came onto TV, I was like, is nobody gonna point this out? Like how insulting this is? It's a third of the size of the men's belt.
You said gold tag team belt?
No. The AEW original woman's belt.
No. Oh, that belt. Yeah. I'm not even gonna talk about that. Yeah, that was. Yeah. Wait, you don't have the Diva belt up there? The butterfly?
I like that belt.
All right, we're moving on. No, but good.
I mean, I don't think Diva Championship was good. Like, I think it shouldn't have been named that. But in I thought the design was pretty cool.
Anyway, I didn't freeze. I just stared at you, just quietly.
Take a look at it. It's not.
I've taken a look at it many of times, and each time I've learned to hate it a little bit more.
I'm also a firm believer that the Winged Eagle title is overrated.
Ooh, okay, so Jack definitely wants us to never go on wrestling TikTok ever.
The fucking fetishization of this thing is so gross.
Here we go.
It's like, it's not bad. It's not an ugly design. It's good.
No.
It's fine. You know, it's better if it's spun.
So, like, the only thing that I have on my heart, right, is I think I've just seen some, like, I've seen people who's like, oh, this should have been promoted more with AEW this past weekend with Collision. I really enjoyed Collision. I still have to finish Rampage. Just because 3 hours is a lot to sit through in one setting for wrestling, I've realized to try to do that back-to-back nights, it's almost like, that's not for me. It's just too much.
It's a lot of grabs.
Yeah, and I think it's 3 hours tomorrow. Don't know if that's true. Gotta check.
What is Dynamite?
Dynamite and Rampage tomorrow because of the NBA playoffs.
Oh, right, they're back to back.
So, which I'm just like, listen, I love y'all. I love this program, but Jesus fuck. But I think sometimes we just gotta let people cook, man. Like people talking like, this should have been promoted, man. This should have been, and it's one of the highest Collision ratings. Damn near like a regular AEW rating.
So like your issue is that who was Brian Alvarez?
I think I hated him talking about, they should have promoted Phoenix's return better. You should have promoted Bruce more.
I was loving up Dave Meltzer like a couple of weeks ago on the pod. I cannot fucking stand Brian Alvarez. I only watch the Dave Meltzer or listen to Dave Meltzer stuff that doesn't have Brian Alvarez. He's the most haughty, obnoxious, like wrestling pundit there is in a world that includes Bully Ray. Like listening to Brian Alvarez is like having, it's like nails on a chalkboard for me. He's just so self-important constantly. And I hate the way, like he always says, like, it's not that hard. Like wrestling's not that hard to book, guys. And it's like, you have never done it. You have, and beyond, like, and I'm all for Dave Meltzer rating matches, and Dave Meltzer's never done it. But Dave Meltzer also doesn't go out there and say it's not that hard.
I think that's it. It's kind of patronizing.
Yes.
And that's where it's just like, if you don't shut the fuck down.
Right.
If you don't sit the fuck down. You a fan just like the rest of us, bitch. You ain't never even tried to do that shit with TV time, fucking money.
I mean, he has wrestled.
But you ain't never tried to book a whole fucking TV show. Like, you ain't never tried to book a TV show. Like, sit your ass the fuck down. Like, what the fuck are you doing? You've wrestled.
It's not that hard, guys. It's really not. And like, why is it so hard to make a wrestling show that caters exclusively to my likes and dislikes in professional wrestling and satisfies them?
I'm like, because bitch, you ain't my main focus. You're my main focus. Fuck you.
And then he goes on shit like you just said about like, oh, they didn't promote this well. Which, like, maybe, but like also this shit is kind of
But did you enjoy the match, my dude? Did you have a good fucking time?
But his job is to comment on that sort of thing.
I know,
like
but my
more
thing
so
is,
than it is you and I's job.
I feel
Like
like
he's very much in the business of pro wrestling.
I feel sometimes we forget, and even and this is me, yes, even as a person who does business shit, don't forget like we get so worried about number statistics. Did you enjoy it? Did you as a person enjoy it? Like put your more of your enjoyment and then your criticisms to the side, and then just talk about it, right? And that was my thing with that. As many of you, I don't know if I said it here, I mute a lot of fucking names in wrestling that annoys me. I know I have Disco Inferno muted. I know I have Bully Ray muted. Eric Bischoff muted. Vince Russo's name and anything that refers to him is muted.
I just like to know.
Alvarez is on that. I know it's one of them when I see this thing is muted, pops up on my thing, and I'm just like, do I really give a fuck? But I had seen Eric Bischoff say something, and I need to just quickly address this as a WCW fan, young boy who was here. He said the ending angle with Tony Khan on on Dynamite last week, was the worst thing he's ever seen booked on a wrestling show in 30 years. And I say to that, you did the finger poke of fucking doom.
Listen.
The night after you beat Goldberg's unbeaten streak to then just hop the boys. And it was the beginning of the death of WCW. You fucking twat. You fucking
Tony Khan had been on a forklift, it would have been fine.
Brother, first of all, you booked the finger poker then. You was the booker when Sting's first match against Hulk Hogan's finish got fucked up. You was the person running the show when DDP and Goldberg got cut off in pay-per-view time. You was like
botched Bret Hart's debut.
Botched his whole fucking run. Botched his whole. You can't talk about shit. Stop talking about the worst book shit. You got fired and thrown into a trash compactor.
We're talking about a guy who's like so insecure that he named his podcast 83 Weeks. That he has to remind everybody, hey, I was number one for a year and a half. 25 years ago.
Jack, you
25 years ago.
I don't even know if you could have fully wrote in your ABCs by the time this man was.
Not even close. I was 1 25 years ago. I was 2, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, that's to call yourself 83 weeks is so, to me, like, so pathetic that you would make your whole life revolve around this one success. And I get it in the sense that there's like a business move going on here where he knows wrestling fans are nostalgic and he knows wrestling fans will always romanticize those 83 weeks.
Him and fucking Russo live off of fucking nostalgia and it drives me insane.
And it's a celebration too of like, wrestling's never going to be that popular again. And not because it'll never cross over into the mainstream again, or we'll never have massive superstars like who are on SNL like The Rock or Triple H or Stone Cold or The Big Show was even on that episode of SNL. And that's just an example. But just because like TV's different now. Yeah. Like a 2 million rating is ginormous. A 1 million rating is a massive success. A 750,000 rating is good.
Yeah.
Where, back then it was 20 million people tuning in.
Exactly.
Television as a whole is different. Like, it just doesn't work that way anymore.
And not just that, it's just like, bro, like, so many people have different ways of watching TV. You can never really fucking. That's why I hate when people talk about ratings. I hate all that shit.
Well,
It's
I
just
think when
like
people talk about ratings and compare it to 25 years ago,
it
because
don't make no fucking sense.
you're dismissing so many like just supplementary facts.
Yes,
It's such a narrowed scope of like this is actually one motherfucker I have muted, and I rarely mute anybody, but Cornette
that's a
said
shock.
once like
Oh my
if
fucking.
I know, like if we had drawn a 1.5, everybody would have been fired tomorrow. It's like that's so ridiculous to say. It's to the credit of like pro wrestling's wane in quality and not just the reality of it's a different time. It's a different moment in entertainment. It's everybody can watch exactly what they want to watch at all times.
I'm going to say this about a Cornette. And this bothers, and this is when we're going to move to the discussion.
Okay.
I seen his little trailer. I seen the art clip of his latest episode, and I hate it. I instantly hate it. I don't even listen to Cornette. But for it to have a black man who just became AEW champion drawn and a gorilla monkey in the artwork, and I guess the gorilla is supposed to be Samoa Joe, I don't give a fuck. And I will say this to anybody who comes to this podcast, and I will say this anytime if you're on social media. If you listen to Jim Cornette, and this has made me very much looked at my my punk fandom different. If you fuck with Jim Cornette, you could go fuck yourself. We gonna leave it there.
Discussion topic for the day. I'm throwing out there your favorite jobbers of all time.
This may shock some people. Heath Slater.
No, that's a good one.
I enjoyed. Listen, when he came up in there, the Brock, I got kids to feed. Hey, come in, brother. I understand.
Man, that shit was over for a while.
Right. When he said "fuck them kids," I was like, "Yeah, I like Heath Slater getting fucked up." I'm not even going to sit here and lie to you. Not going to sit here and lie to you. But also, he made it a gimmick. Heath Slater's one
got some mileage out of it.
Fuego. People might fucking hate me.
So, yeah.
He was listen. Him versus Miro. You had.
Yep. That was a tremendous match.
Yeah.
Hook's first match.
He got
great for it.
It's a quality jobber is an overlooked fucking thing.
Oh, 100%.
Overlooked.
I mean, I may be biased here because he trained me, but Kurt Hawkins is I think is my number one because he had to consistently find new ways to get guys over. Like he had a new finish for all of his matches. Like it wasn't just like he got hit with the opponent's finisher and like that was wraps.
And he did it for a year because he was on a year losing streak.
Yep. And then turned it around and won the tag team title and was able to make it believable enough within the WWE like realm of logic, believable enough that you got behind him for it.
Yeah. Is Toriano technically counting this?
Soriano?
Yeah, Toriano.
Oh. Yes. I'm going to say yes.
He might be up there too.
It's like, I don't know if he's a jobber though, because he does win.
That's what I was saying. I don't know.
No, I wouldn't. He's not a jobber. No.
Then no. Okay, no.
Okay, then is the Miz a jobber? Because if you look at the stats, even like he won that WWE championship, but he still has lost like before this tag team run over 90% of his matches, like over the past few years.
You want me to be like in honesty or in my heart?
And be objective about it. Is the Miz a jobber?
No.
He's not a jobber.
Does he feel like when I watch him in every match? Yeah.
Because I would say he's a jobber. And I listen, I'm an unabashed, unashamed fan of the Miz.
I think he is a jobber. I think also I have a vast hatred for the Miz, so I really shouldn't be able to speak on these things. So
let me throw a great one at you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jimmy Wang Yang.
Absolutely.
I'm saying he was definitely a jobber. Like, I feel like this one's not up for debate. I'm saying it's one of my favorite all-time jobbers.
Yeah, he was fantastic, honestly.
The Hurricane.
Do you count Hurricane as a jobber?
Oh, yeah.
He was one of their longest reigning cruiserweight champions at one point.
But that was when he was Gregory Helms. Totally different character.
Okay, so we separating the characters too?
Yeah. Like,
as
the Hurricane, he was a jobber. As Gregory Helms, he's a cruiserweight champion.
Totally agree then.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
And when he was the Hurricane, like, I remember growing up and him being one of the first people I watched and just loved watching him lose.
I agree with that because I remember when he beat The Rock and the shock of it and just everybody. Because when you have a jobber and they do one of those moments, you're like, what the fuck? Yeah, I agree with that. Totally
that's what made the Kurt Hawkins thing so great too.
Yeah, a great jobber is underappreciated, but when they get that win, it's almost like a holy shit.
Well, a great jobber too, I think one has to find a lot of different ways to lose and still look interesting.
Yes.
Two has to attack the mat when they take bumps.
Yes.
To really make that shit look brutal.
You don't understand how great of a worker they are sometimes.
Yes, and to make their opponent's offense look good. It's another thing about Kurt Hawkins. He made everybody he wrestled look great.
Every finisher he took looked like he was dying.
Yep. Like, there's not a match in that. And I actually, because I was thinking about this question this week, and so I went on YouTube some Kurt Hawkins stuff, and you get the full clip because it's fucking 2 minutes he's on TV. And every finisher he took, every move that he took, he had a unique way of taking it and executed it really well and made the other guy look like $1 million.
Yeah.
And three has to like give you the impression that maybe this is the time that they pull this shit out. Like maybe despite
they get this close.
Right.
Every time. It's like they just get closer and closer with each match. And then you get to that one moment where they're just like, maybe.
Yeah. Like violate your suspension of disbelief.
Yes.
Where you know this guy's not going to win. They're never, ever, ever going to win. They never win.
No.
But maybe this time.
Maybe luck. Maybe Lady Luck is on their side this time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I guess Santino Marella, another all-time great jobber.
He is. I appreciated his comedy more than his jobbing.
I mean, he has not one but two moments where he pulled that off. Where he almost won the Elimination Chamber, and the crowd was going banana land.
That's true.
Like, the crowd was unglued. And the Royal Rumble, where the crowd wasn't as quite as loud, but was still, like, pretty stoked with the idea that he would win.
Yeah. I remember the Elimination Chamber.
Everybody in that building thought that he was going to win, like, for that moment.
I was shocked. I was like,
yeah,
people sat behind him, you know. Like, I was going to the Mania that year. So I was watching Elimination Chamber, and I was just like, wow.
He said in an interview that he thought that they were going to call an audible and have him win that, like, when the crowd was going that crazy.
No. Not Vince. Not today, buddy.
No, that's not going to happen for you, fam.
All right, man. Well, you can find me everywhere on Life of Dean.
And you can find me, Jack Simon, JackSimonMakes.com, and Jack.Simon on the social medias.
Yes, indeed. And
on the interwebs.
Make sure you follow the podcast, Wrestling with Wromance. That's one word on Instagram. Hopefully soon we'll have a TikTok up and running, and on don't worry about it. No pressure. You know, like the app's not going nowhere in 9 months. Like the app ain't going nowhere. But also you can follow us on the Twitter at Wromance with a W pod. I will be tweeting there way more often because my Twitter is toxic. But beyond that, we'll see you guys next week. Deuces.